All right, so I'm going to do a little shout out to this live stream that I've been watching. It's a watch nerd live stream. Guy in Brooklyn, New York, named Tim Wright runs this stream, and he's got a whole series of panelists. And he's been doing it like pretty much every single night. I think he's done it like every single night for just over 3 years. He just had his 3 year anniversary, and it is truly it's quite a whirlwind. I got sucked into this thing because I'm into watches, and I just like talking about, reading about watches, watching videos about watches, and I'm talking wristwatches. Right now, I just went for a run, so today I'm wearing my Casio World Timer on the NATO. As they say, on the NATO strap. Look at that. Anyway, it's my running watch. It's all jacked up from sweat and everything. And I also got the night watch. I like to keep this by the bed, or sometimes I might even put it on because it lights up. You know, it's a Casio. So so I watched this watch nerd freak out, and I came to it because I was watching other watch nerd things, and somehow it led me down that rabbit hole, that YouTube rabbit hole that takes you through the winding waters of YouTube. And this thing that Tim does, it may not be your cup of tea, but it's my cup of tea, and it's very narrowly focused in the sense that it's about watches. Now, occasionally, these guys on this panel get off topic, and they'll go down some political roads. They'll go down some different roads. Sometimes just about travel. Sometimes about this community. The watch community has built up a lot of these people are now friends. Since I've chimed in on this thing. Well, I actually went on to one of their after shows once and kind of met some of these guys. But they're just people all over the country. A lot of them are in the UK. Some are in Dubai. Some are very wealthy and buy like ridiculously expensive watches. I mean, like Richard Mille's, AP's, Audemars Piguet, Vacheron Constantin, tons of Rolex guys. They all love Rolex. Rolex is like the king, the crown, Rolex in their world. And but I really do enjoy it. It can get a little crazy sometimes. It can get besides there's a panel. So think a Zoom call, and there's like 4 or 5 guys chatting. Sometimes 5, sometimes 3, sometimes 1. Sometimes just Tim. He'll just be chatting for an hour before someone chimes in. But then there's like, if you follow live streams, then there's the chat. And the chat is where people literally just sit there and type, and freak out and comment on something that was just said, or go off on tangents, or freak out on someone else. It is, and it's all over the map politically. You got hardcore MAGA types, and there are a lot. I've actually been quite surprised by how many deeply hardcore MAGA types are in the watch community, but at least the ones I've found on YouTube. But it's MAGA is alive and well in the world of at least the American world of watches. But I'm sure there's just plenty of me liberals and all that on the other side of the fence. So, but it's fun to watch. Like I said, they can go off on topics, but a lot of times it's just going deep dive onto basically very expensive watches. Tim doesn't like messing around. The host doesn't really. I mean, I think he appreciates it and he likes watches, but this show tends to be geared towards very, very expensive watches, and it's and that obviously cuts out pretty much 99% of the people on the planet, 99.9% of the people on the planet that go out and buy a watch. Most people are not spending $10,000 plus on a watch. They're just not. Wealthy people, to them, that's a drop in the bucket, whoop-de-doo. So, they're either into watches or just like, oh, look, it's a nice watch. I shop at nice places. My wife shops at nice places, or my girlfriend. And that's that. But, most people are buying Seikos and Casios, and most people are wearing Apple watches, for God's sake. Most people, which costs what, $500, $600, $800? I don't know. I've never worn one. But at the end of the day, it's actually quite informative. And this guy, Tim, he goes off. He went to the Dubai Watch Fair a few months ago and he live streams the entire thing, like pretty much the entire thing. He just wandered around with the camera live streaming. And it was incredibly informative. And it was like, made me want to go to the Dubai Watch Fair. I was like, well, that looks cool. I would go to that. And it doesn't look as, at first you would think that it would feel kind of threatening, the Dubai Watch World. But at the end of the day, it looked very accommodating and very welcoming, and it made something that I would be into going to. So little things like that. The guys on the stream, they tend to take these kind of fun, crazy, drunken trips to like Miami or LA or Las Vegas and things like that, and they get drunk and have a good time, which I'm all for. I'm a fan of getting drunk and having a good time. There's nothing wrong with that with your buddies. So anyway, it's just something that's it's been a kind of a big part of my world for the last, I want to say 6-7 months now, maybe even longer. And I don't watch it all the time. And sometimes I'll go back and watch a little bit of the stream the next day because, of course, it's captured on YouTube. But it's always informative, and I've learned a lot about watches and things that I've learned a little bit about the people that buy watches and the reason why they buy watches and why watches are important to people. Watches are cool. Watches are these, now this is a quartz watch. You can throw this against the wall, and if it breaks, it breaks. Who gives a shit? It costs $20. But very, very high-end mechanical watches. That is a fascinating world. Swiss watches, the Japanese, Grand Seiko, things like that. They, these are incredible, tiny little machines, and you wear it on your wrist. They're little pieces of art. They're incredible little tiny engineering pieces of art, engineered art. They're just cool. And in a world of where everything's digital now and everything is, I don't know. There's something very special that somebody in a Swiss lab is putting a tiny little screw in something and making it just these amazing little things. And some of these watches that are really expensive, they make 1 of 5 or 1 of 100 or something like that. So, Rolex cranks out like 1.5 million Rolexes a year, and then they make it hard for you to get one. But that's this whole other world of like allocations and where you are on the list. There's a list, if you didn't know, at all these high-end watch dealers. You're not on the list unless you've spent money with them before, and it's a game. It's just a game, and that's maybe dying down a little bit. There's a lot of talk about right now the watch prices have come down. They went crazy post-COVID, like everything, and the crypto ran out, all the PPP ran out, all the money, free money ran out, and so people weren't running out buying very, very expensive watches like they were a few years ago. But anyway, it's Tim Wright live streams. I would highly recommend going to check it out. It comes on pretty much every day. I think it comes around about 6 p.m. Eastern time, sometimes 5. You just have to check, subscribe to his thing. And it's just a bunch of dudes talking watches. So if you're into watches, I would